Welcome to Hanging with Hal, a show about people who are competitive with their barbecue skills. As a fellow competitor and owner of Charcoal and More, I interview my guests to get their best stories and favorite failings to learn what makes them great competitors and great people. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It's Hal Wagner with Charcoal and More again. I'm got another friend on the line here today. I decided that I would share with you and we'd have a conversation with. His name is Chris Marks. Maybe some of you have heard of him. If not, we're going to introduce you to him and some of his accomplishments in the barbecue world. Great guy, longtime friend. And leading into that, Chris, welcome. And let's start off by how did you and I meet, and how many years ago has it been, do you think?
Well, Hal, we actually met in Cleveland, Ohio, and we met up at Heat Exchange Barbecue when you came up to do a class, and it was probably 12 years ago.
Wow.
Dan Maltillo, still there and actually still do barbecue classes up in Cleveland. And we met up there, and I remember we hit it off real well, and you basically said, "Hey, I can do this. This is pretty easy." And pretty much from there, it has been a budding long-term relationship, friendship.
I agree. It's been I can't really remember when we weren't friends, and I guess 12 years is a long time. But although it seems like it's also in some other cases kind of flown by, it's just like it's been great to know you in the barbecued world. And so we're talking about me going to the class. Well, I want to ask you. I want to share with other people your accomplishments. Let's see, why are you teaching classes, and what led you to believe you needed to teach classes, and some of your background as far as your successes?
Well, I've been very blessed on the barbecue side. Of course, we've won 4 world championships. And again, the world championships is what we consider at Kansas City. And everybody from around the world pretty much who has won a contest come in there. We have pretty much like a shootout.
Okay.
And we've won that, been very blessed to win that 4 times. Also been reserve in it 4 times. That's sort of what we're known for, is the domination of the world championships. Have we won other contests? Absolutely. We've probably won 60 to 70 other contests throughout the country. But really what it came down to is a family driven ordeal. Nowadays, I mean, there's sponsors and all kinds of goofy things with competitors. We never had a sponsor. Our sponsor was ourselves. And we pretty much were self-funding by our winnings. And again, very blessed to be able to do that. The team primarily was driven by my mom and dad. I was working at the time. I was an engineer for a computer company. And my dad was retired from Hallmark, and my mom basically supported him traveling around with their friends. This was a big friends for them. The KCBS, they were part of the original crew that helped really get it running and get it up really going good. My mom was on the board for, I think, 8 to 10 years at KCBS, helping it really organize in the first part of KCBS. But it was their deal. It was their friendships. And after they retire, they would travel around the country and actually around the world with these people. My dad would teach classes. My dad would do contests. And at the same time, he also was some of the original contest organizers. So again, that's sort of where it all started. It just sort of fell over to me as they had passed away. Basically, he said, "Hey, once you're done with this, do something good with it. Take the knowledge that we've learned and passed it on." And I've been, again, very blessed to be able to do a lot of presentations through my latter careers. And I love teaching. I love showing people how easy this hobby is. There's a lot of information out there, but there are just so many people that make this so hard, and it is really so simple to do. And right now, Hal, I am starting right at my 20th year of doing barbecue classes. And if you can look throughout the United States, I don't think I know anybody else who's been doing classes for 20 years.
Yeah, I don't either. And you've certainly got the pedigree and the knowledge to teach the classes. How about let's talk a little bit about the classes, for instance. I know you and I have done several together, but what is your theory on the class as far as when we talk about classes? I mean, we can take comp classes and we can take we can take that class. How do you describe the classes you overall, like the boot camps?
Yeah. Well, that's actually my dog in the background there.
All right.
And as you can probably tell, the Wonder Corgi. Well, Hal, my theory on classes is this, is let's look at the science behind it. Let's not just go out there and win 2 or 3 contests and say, hey, I'm going to be doing a contest for $700 because I took a 4th place in chicken in a world championship. Right. What I want customers to get out of this is, this class is about you and defining you, not what that guy cooks like. You need to take the science, understand the science of how it works, how charcoal works, pellet works, and make it you. That's always been my theory in these classes. And my deal is this, is make it as easy as possible. It seems to me that some of these classes that I see now, they make it so hard and so difficult, it intimidates these guys. And they're like, I just dropped $700 on a class, knowing that now I'm going to have to spend $1,000 on just meat to do a good product. And again, my goal is this, is let's go down to the local Sam's Club or the Costco. What do they have in their counters? What does your grocery store have that we can do to make it great? So again, I have a different theory than a lot of the guys do now.
Yeah. And I know you agree with me when I say that, barbecues is something that brings family and friends together as well. I've noticed along my barbecue career that as I got deeper into it, I had a few more invites to parties, and as long as I'd bring ribs or pulled pork, something like that. So it's been a lot of fun, and it's been very interesting for me to acquire the skills and to make, just like you said, I make the barbecue at home the way I like it. And that's the beauty of it. I'm not trying to make it the way someone else likes it, and it gives you the ability to do it without overcomplicating things. We can all overthink things, and it's easily done in that. So,
something else that I feel is really important too about the classes that I've done over the last 20 years is when I do a class, I hook up with dealers like you. You know that. Mm-hmm. Specifically, barbecue guys who are trying to really help other people in their communities grow barbecue. I could have as many barbecue classes here in Kansas City as I want, but you know what? I like helping the guys build their stores. Sure. And I could take all this business to myself if I want. I don't want that. I go out throughout the country, usually about 35 times a year, and I work with dealers, helping them, giving them the confidence to be able to do this hobby. And again, I've been coming back to you for 10, 12 years now. I've got a dealer in Chicago, 15 years, 3 times a year I go up there. So again, it's just, I have a whole different outlook than a lot of the guys who are doing classes now.
Sure. Well, and having to attend your classes and being part of it, I think everybody realizes that. I can't tell you how many times people have contacted me after the class and going, I didn't know it could be so easy. You guys made it look easy. It's meat even at Costco or Sam's costs a lot of money. So you don't want to ruin something. And if you can understand the basics, then you can take it from there. But it's nice I just personally in this class, the hands-on bit really helps the confidence level, because you can't learn everything on YouTube.
Absolutely. YouTube
There's
University.
No interaction, if you know what I mean.
And a lot of these guys don't understand YouTube University is one of their worst enemies, because one guy say left, one guy say right, one guy say in the middle. And, they really need to get in there and understand the science behind it, because that guy off YouTube University, 90% of the time, he's just copying off somebody else he saw on YouTube University. Sure. It's all about how many guys or subscriptions I can get or how many Instagram hits I can get. I'm not about that. Right. I like the one-on-one with the people at the dealers. That is where that dealer's going to get the best benefit of that reoccurring customer coming back and back again. And my goal is to make that dealer as that expert in that area.
Sure. Yeah.
And again, that's why I build classes the way I do it. The other thing is I try to limit the size of classes. As you know, that's right. Important. We try to keep between 20 to 25 in a class. Can we have more? Absolutely, every time. But what it is, that 20 to 25 is perfect for me and like yourself as that dealer to really help the guys. It's not about how much information I can spew out of my mouth. It's how well those guys interpret it and how well we can make them great.
Right. How comfortable they are with it at the end, not having to rely on, a bunch of notes and things like that. So
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and that's, again, that's my goal is to help that specific area be great.
Yeah.
And, and obviously I'm doing something right because they keep asking me back after 20 years. So.
Well, that's right. We've done it so many times and enjoy it every time. And it's just something that I think it benefits everybody that attends. Everybody learns something. It doesn't matter if you're brand new to the barbecue scene or you've been on 20 years. There's always a tip or two that we can share with people that they go home with and take home with, and they see it's valuable information. And we never know what it is. It might be the difference between a spare rib and a St. Louis cut.
Absolutely.
As simple as that. It doesn't matter. Just taking information home.
And you've seen the transition over the last 5 years as between the charcoal and the pellet, and that's the great thing about the stores that I work with is we give that guy the ability to see a pellet cooker, a charcoal smoker working together.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the difference. Here's make an educated choice here. You can taste the difference between the two. Yeah. Are they work a little different? Yeah. But here's an example, Hal. I was just up at Helping You Barbecue up in Omaha last weekend.
Okay.
We had 2 classes up there, 2 fantastic sold out classes up there. 5 years ago, when we would have people raise their hands on what kind of cookers they had, it would be about 75% charcoal wood guys and 25% pellet guys. This class was basically reversed almost 180. We had 80% pellet guys and 25% charcoal guys. So you see how it's transitioned over the last 5 years. Yes. So we have to adapt our styles because, again, it's a different kind of cooking.
Yes, it is. It is. But fortunately, you're good enough to be able to do that and pass that information on. I think that pellets are obviously the hottest thing on the market today. There will always be something newer and better eventually, and I don't see this pellet thing slowing down in the near future at all.
I don't either. Not at all.
I think it's a good bridge between gas and charcoal or wood. I think it's somewhere in between, personally.
Yeah, well, and you're exactly right. But it's the educated dealers like you that give the customer the honest. You have to be honest with them, and I think that's so important to these guys. Yeah. And that here's what's good. Here's what they don't do as good. Here's what charcoal has. Here's what they don't do as good. Right. And that's the one thing I've always prided myself about you, Hal, is you're brutally honest with the people. It just irritates me when I see a lot of people online just flat out, just not even thinking about what they're saying and how they're saying it when it comes to certain kinds of cooking styles.
Right. Oh, I totally agree. And you've got to change with the times. And we want to again, in the course, obviously you want to teach the course to who's your audience, who are you working with. We don't want to get off course too much. And if they're mostly pellet cookers, we want to talk about them at that point in time. So switching off the classes for a minute, I'd sure like to have you and I know we've talked for hours, but any barbecue memories, anything you want to that sticks in your mind, a good story that we could share, be it good or be it bad, it doesn't matter. It could be a disaster, could be.
I've got a couple.
The Royal the first time, how about that?
Yeah, the Royal the first time in a tent, and the hobos and the bums trying to get into our foods. Here's a great one. Here's a great one to explain my dad. My dad, he had all kinds of friends at Hallmark Cards. So if anybody's familiar with Hallmark Cards, corporate Kansas City, they have offices in Lawrence, Leavenworth, Kansas. So, 45, 50 minutes away. So he pretty much worked in the plant in Kansas City, and they would always have a cook-off in McLouth, Kansas, which is right outside Lawrence. So all his friends from Lawrence all would come in, and they would always cook against each other. And what they would do is they would always take like the signs, they would take knives, they would take even awards, and they would basically take them. Then they would inter-office mail them back to each other. So, here my dad is, he can't find one of his best knives. And then like 3 days later, it shows up at Hallmark inter-office mail. So they used to do that. Another great story from that was his friend, John Humphrey, never forget him. He ruined a brisket, literally ruined it. So, we always cook 2 briskets, and I know you're not supposed to do this in KCBS, but what did my dad do with our second brisket?
Loaned him 2 slices? Huh?
Oh, yeah, gave him the whole brisket.
Oh, really?
And so you know what happened? He beat us, and he ended up winning the whole contest, and it was the first contest he had ever won. And he took a first place in brisket, and that brisket's what actually won the contest for him.
That's a great.
So again, and I mean, that was my dad. He would help anybody. He told everybody everything we did. And
yeah,
just sort of the way he worked.
There you go.
And here's a disaster that happens too. Royal, we win the Invitational in 1997, and that was the one that my dad had passed away right before. We won the Invitational, won it by 15 points, which is a pretty domination when you're talking all the world championships cooking, all the world guys cooking against each other. Then we came back in the contest with 400, cooked identical, same way, and damn near took last.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
Different.
So again, it just shows you
tables.
It's all about the judges.
Yep. That's exactly right. Exactly right. Yeah. You take you're not going to change a thing. You're going to get up on the same side of the bed. You're going to eat the same breakfast. You're going to, use the same knife. You're going to, everything would be the same. There's no reason to change. And that's, I think that's happened to, it's happened to a lot of people. And it's a head scratcher, but it's part of
the deal.
You can only control what you can control, right?
That's a fact. We just sort of laughed it off, and move on. But nowadays, I'm sure, would throw a fit and get on social media and complain. But you never did that.
No,
we're always, hey, we just move on to the next one.
Well, you make good food, and I think that's really important that you guys turn in the product you thought was the best you turned in, and there wasn't anything wrong with it. It just so happens it didn't hit right, and I've done
Absolutely.
the same thing. I've done the same thing. So the name of your barbecue team was Three Little Pigs,
right?
And I assume that's Mom, Dad, and you.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about the fact that you are Three Little Pigs rubs and sauces. How did that all come about? How did you go from? You already said that your dad always shared everything, but how did that go from we're going to make this to put on our chicken to maybe we should put this in a shaker? I mean that's a big.
No, it was a big. Well, we started first with the sauce.
Yeah. Okay.
So my dad had passed away in 97, and we had won enough to where we had some expendable cash. And I talked to a friend who was one of the main guys at Original Lawns, Joe Polo. He says, "Hey, you need to come down here and make a sauce. I'll hook you up with a chef. We'll get it all done." So what we did is we took my dad's recipe for the competition sauce, the comp sauce.
Okay.
And we were the original comp sauce name.
Okay.
Now you see all kinds of guys call them comp sauce. We were the ones who created that name back in about 2003 is when the comp sauce came out. So we developed it from there. It was really a deal for my dad. My dad's name was on the label with his birthday and all that stuff for years and years and years. So that was sort of that deal. And then it kept it was just doing well. So then we did the Chipotle sauce, then the Kansas City Sweet. And then what happened from there was, our barbecue rub, I was able to take the profit from that and make barbecue rubs.
Okay.
So it just sort of rolled slowly, and I just sort of extended it as we had the ability to extend. I didn't do them all at one time. I built a market. Then as that market develops, I added or extended products to it.
I see. Okay.
Instead of doing 10 at one time and throwing it all out there and hoping it sticks.
So was that a regional type sales at that point in time?
Yes, absolutely. Started out regional.
Okay.
I had a nice little broker, Dale Eldenkamp, out of Topeka, and we were in the Hy-Vees. We were split between Kansas City and pretty much Topeka,
Okay.
Kansas, and down to Wichita and up to Des Moines. And remember, this was not a big thing back then, not at all. So as barbecue developed more and more, we extended that branch. Then I quit and I went to work for Ace of Hearts. And from Ace of Hearts, that gave us the ability to expand and extend more nationwide, because now we had the funding to get the product in, get it all figured out, and go nationwide.
Oh, that's great. Great. Okay. So you got the sauces and the rubs. Now you've got what, 6 rubs, right?
Got 6 rubs and 6 sauces.
What was the process of, I'd pick one, of going from, did you say, okay, I need a sweet rub? How are we going to do this? Did it work that way? Did you work it backwards of what you wanted to accomplish? Or did you have something in your arsenal that you were able to take and basically put in a bottle?
Well, good question. The rubs were much different. Now, understand, when we started this market in the rubs, there were very few rubs out there. Okay, very few. And so what we did is we looked at the market, and what we did is we looked regionally. We looked at the market. Okay, so what's a great, we have a Memphis rub. Okay, so when you think of barbecue, you think of Kansas City. You think of sweet. Okay. Yeah. And it was, there's a good rub too. The other thing with the touch of cherry rub was that's what we used for years and years and years on our pork. Okay. And the thing about it was, after a while, we could never find it. It would be out there for a little bit, then be gone. I mean, so my mom says, we're just going to make it. Okay. And that's where the touch of cherry came from. That was one of my mom's recipes, that touch of cherry.
Great.
And, but the rubs, like you say, I study the market. I never take anything for granted. I study the market. I study shelf space. I study how other people do things, who are successful and who are not. Okay. Because there's 1,000 different rubs and sauces that come out every year. Right. How am I going to do better than they can? Sure. And what it is actually, I just study the market. I'm very fortunate to work with Old World Rubs and Old World Spices. They make my rubs, and they're very knowledgeable at the market, and they point me in the right direction. They say, no, that's not a good idea. And I listen to them, and I think I'm one of the few guys that do listen to people. I really do, because a lot of guys, well, I can do this, and they just don't really understand a lot of the ramifications for what they do and how they do it. And guys, you can't make this stuff in your bathtub and, throw a label on it and then go set it in a store. It doesn't work that way. Right.
Yeah, that makes sense. And with Old World being one of the largest blenders there are, they certainly have a lot of, back to what you said earlier, they have a lot of resources and they have a lot of experience, and they're dealing with a lot of people, based on all the brands they make. So they kind of got a good cross section of what works and what doesn't work, as you said, I'm sure.
Absolutely. They're the smartest at the market on this. Yeah. I mean, just no getting around it. They just know the business.
There you go. So
they've done it forever.
Right. So you went regional, then you went national. Now you're also international, are you not?
Oh, absolutely. Been international for a long time. Been international. I mean, one of my biggest selling areas, Australia, New Zealand. It's a huge area for me. A lot of stuff. I just noticed a big order went to Belgium, Spain, Portugal. Just a lot of international type sales. Remember, they're just catching on to this barbecue thing now.
They're behind, yeah.
So and it's really blowing up. Also in Australia, they're just some of the best cooks are probably coming out of Australia. When I was over there teaching, they were phenomenal. I mean, their products, their meats, their proteins are just phenomenal, and they're great cooks.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's upward swing. I mean, and we're still barbecue. I think is as popular as it's ever been here in the U.S. And especially we're going to wrap around back to the pellet cookers with allowing some backyard or some amateur or whoever you want to call yourself, just some families to be able to cook with a little more flavor in their barbecue. It's encouraging, and they want to do and you want to do it again if you make a good product. So I think barbecue continues to grow. It was available to the few that wanted to take the time to do it before, and with all the modern technology, it's allowing a lot more people to make better food or make the food the way they like it.
Well, it's in our classes, and we preach this. And again, that's why we don't do comp classes. We really focus on that guy who's really trying to get into the market and not be the champion, but be the champion of the neighborhood is right. Sort of always one of my little plays. And I know a lot of guys like using that one. You be that champion of the neighborhood and
king of the cul-de-sac.
Yeah, king of the cul-de-sac. There you go. And I think it's really, really important because, our focus is really to make them great. And at the same time, my focus is to make that dealer that guy that everybody comes into.
Sure.
And it's just sometimes I just watch what's going on and I'm like, guys, you need to see the big picture.
Right.
We need to grow our hobby, not isolate it to people who can only afford it.
Right. I think that's really important. I think our time is up for now. I want to ask you something. You want to come back and do this again sometime soon?
Absolutely. You know my number.
We'll get together here soon, and we'll pick a couple of the subjects to talk about, and look forward to having you at class here in April at our place.
Yep.
Be a lot of fun. Always we'll have a good time there, and we'll go from there. So thanks taking your time and sharing with us and all the folks that are watching and my friends, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Okay. Thanks, Al.
All right. Bye-bye.